simplest question to start out with. Was Jesus born on December 25th?
No. Is that shocking? No.
Well, there we go,
okay,
folks.
that's
You
it.
can all go home now.
We don't have to worry about all those presents.
We just wiped Christmas out, so we'll...
Yeah. Well, let's do it, as if we were, biblical detectives and we're here in the Holy Land. First of all, first clue, Luke 2, it says, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in cloth, laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. In the same region, there were some shepherds staying out in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. That alone is a clue right there.
It is?
Yeah, absolutely. Because people who argue December 25th seek to deal with this. The rabbis say in the Talmud that shepherds would only be out in the fields around March until the next rainy season. See, so people argue, well, the winter there is not, the winter still gets cold there too. If you've been to Israel in the winter, it does get, I've been there when there's been snow. It's not just that they're out, they're not just keeping their sheep in the pens, they're out in the fields and at night, which is very strange. Why would they be out in the fields at night? Well, some people have argued, this is another one, that he was born in the autumn, he was born during the Feast of Tabernacles, which I understand because they say, well, God tabernacling with us. The problem with that is that during Tabernacles, the males had to all be in Jerusalem. So the birth of Messiah would not cause Joseph to break the law by being outside of Jerusalem when he's born. It's not going to do that. The birth of Messiah is going to fulfill everything. So there is one time of the year that shepherds would especially be out with their flocks at night. Only one. That's in the springtime. Why are they watching their flocks at all hours? Because shepherds during one particular time do that. It's when the sheep give birth to lambs. In the lambing season. That's the only time. That's what they're watching. At any time of day, any time of night, they're watching for any birth. That's the only time. And when would that happen? The lambs are not like people. They're only born at one time.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I must be a dummy. Honestly.
No. Lambs are only born at a certain time of the year, not like us. They can only be born in a certain season. Lambs are born in the springtime. That's the first thing. They're born in the springtime. They could start as early as February, but it really would go March, April. That's the center. That's the Hebrew month of Nisan. We're going to also go to Nisan is that month. So during that, they'd be watching it, which all fits together because, the shepherds, their job is to watch because the lamb, they make sure the lamb is okay. So what a perfect thing to begin with because Jesus is the Lamb of God. So why would God who would he have to greet the birth? Shepherds who are watching for the birth of the Lamb. So here, that's so perfect of God. Messiah is the Lamb of God, and they're there greeting. That's what they're doing. And where is he born? He's born in Bethlehem or Beit Lechem. And the thing is that Bethlehem, people don't know this, because of some clues we have in the writings of the rabbis, was actually a place where the lambs that they had were actually the lambs for the temple sacrifice. Bethlehem, especially, was the lambs for the temple sacrifice.
Really?
So here, what more perfect place and time, Messiah born at the time of the lambs, when the sacrificial lambs are born, in the place where they're born. Now here's something else that is going to point to this period. There's a clue in Exodus 12, it says take a lamb, a male, 1 year old, it's the Passover lamb. And so now you can read that and miss something. The lamb that is the Passover lamb, and Jesus, Yeshua, is the Passover lamb, is a year old at the time of Passover. So it means it had to be born a year before in the springtime to be a year old. So here Messiah, so the Passover lamb dies on Passover. Messiah is the Passover lamb. He dies on Passover, but it's also born at the time of Passover. That's Nisan, spring. So Messiah, the Passover lamb is born at the same time when it dies. So that's the next clue. And so the next thing is the holy day. Next clue is the holy days of Israel. And here, what does that have to do with this mystery? Well, the central events of Messiah's life and his time on earth, they all take place on Hebrew holy days. And we'll start. And one people don't even realize Palm Sunday. The first thing is he's going to his passion, getting on that dock, going. That's a Hebrew holiday. People don't realize the first Hebrew holiday ever given to Israel was Palm Sunday. And where it is, it doesn't say Palm Sunday. It's in Exodus 12 when it says, take a lamb on the 10th day of the month. You'll take the lamb, you'll keep it for 4 days, you'll take the lamb to your house. That's called the 10th of Nisan. The first command given to Israel to continually keep. The 10th of Nisan is the day of the lamb. the day that they take the lamb to their house, keep it there until the time of the sacrifice. So what happens? The 10th of Nisan, count back from the Last Supper at Passover, the 14th, 15th of Nisan, go back, you are at Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday is the 10th of Nisan. It's the first Hebrew day ever given, and it's the day that they are actually, when he's coming to Jerusalem, they're all taking the lambs to their house. God is taking the Lamb of God to his house on the day of the lamb being taken to the house.
Oh my!
It's all there.
Really amazing.
And the first thing in this, the first command ever given to Israel to go was, think about this, was take the lamb. In Hebrew, you can translate it, accept the lamb, receive the lamb. The first command he gives to the Jewish people is accept the lamb. And when they fulfill that first commandment, it's all the age is complete. But that was the very first command, and that was the day. And it also can be even translated, seize the lamb. He comes into Jerusalem, he's going to be seized. But so all the lambs, he's watching them come in, and he is coming as the Lamb of God. God is moving him, getting ready for the sacrifice on the same day. I mean, God is so perfect, so perfect. So everything, that's just one. I didn't even mean to share on that. That's one. Beautiful. And the thing is that, and then when does he die? He dies on the other Hebrew holy day, which is Passover, the Lamb. When does he rise? He rises on the other Hebrew holy day. We can do a whole thing. The Feast of First Fruit, the day of the first fruit, when the first fruit is lifted up from the earth as the new life, after the new life of God, he is raised up as the first fruit. Paul even says, it's on the day of the first fruit. Everything happens. Then you think of what's the next great event of the church? It's Pentecost. Pentecost is a Jewish holiday. People don't realize that. Yes. Pentecost is Shavuot in Hebrew. You know that the word Pentecost is a Jewish word that those same Greek rabbis who came up with the tower, calling it the come let us build a tower. They're the same ones who came up with the name Pentecost. And Pentecost is a Jewish holiday. In fact, there are some Orthodox Jews will know that they're celebrating Pentecost. They were the first Pentecostals. They're celebrating that. Moses was the Pentecostal. He told them to celebrate it. And in Greek, it's Pentecost 50 days. In Hebrew, it's Feast of Weeks. Same thing. So everything happens on a Hebrew holiday of his life. His death, his resurrection. So, of course, his birth. God is very accurate and absolute. It's going to happen on a significant holy day of Israel. So the question is, which one? It begins in the springtime. The first feast is Passover. The age begins with Passover, Messiah on the cross, and it ends with tabernacles, when God will come down and tabernacle. And so we can do a whole thing on this. But the whole age is that. So when would he be born prophetically? It's not going to be in the autumn. That's the second coming. Got to be in the spring again. It all points back to the spring, and it points back to this month called Nisan, which means the beginning. The month means the beginning. That's what it means. That's when it all begins. So, and everything he does in order. Yes, on Sunday, he does it according to those days. So if you count back, you got resurrection in the Nisan, you got Passover, 15th of Nisan, you got Palm Sunday, 10th of Nisan. You only have a few more days from the beginning that this has got to happen. So it's narrowing it down now to the very first days of Nisan. And so now the next clue. Every time he fulfills a holy day, he doesn't just fulfill the time. The theme of that day, he fulfills it. For instance, Passover, he dies with the Passover lamb. First fruits, he rises. So everything has to do with that. Is there any day on the Hebrew calendar that would match up with birth, new beginning, new everything? There is one day, and it happens to be in Nisan. And the one day is Nisan 1, which is the very beginning of the Hebrew year, the very day that begins everything. And this is a day that it's the real New Year, though most Jewish people think Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah.
It's not. The real New Year of God is Nisan 1. Now the thing about Nisan 1 is you don't have to be in Jerusalem. There's no command to be in Jerusalem, yet it's a holy day, so Joseph could be there at that time. And think about this. It's the day that begins the calendar. It changes the calendar. The old calendar is gone. The new calendar begins. What does Messiah's birth do when he comes to this world? He changes the calendar. Yeah. The whole calendar is changed BC AD. And there's one day on the Hebrew calendar that matches that, and that's Nisan 1. It's the calendar changer. But now we're going to even go deeper. We're going to go to the moon now. Okay, we go for the moon. But this is not, I want to tell you, as we're doing this, there's all sorts of things that touch on a million other things. So it's the mystery of the moon. And that is, the Hebrew calendar is based on the moon, and that's where we get the word month. So the moon. And so when Jesus died, people don't realize this, he died at the full moon. When he died, it was a full moon. Why? Every Hebrew month begins with a new moon, starts.
Right.
It reaches its peak at the full moon. That's what it's called. The month is in its fullness. That's right in the middle. Jesus died on the Nisan 14-15, in the middle, that's Passover. That's when the moon had to be full that day, had to be full. And as a symbol, Nisan means the beginning. The month means the beginning. The full moon means it's the fulfillment of this beginning, this first coming. It's at the fullness of it. So his whole life is leading up to this fullness, this moon. And so when would his life begin? If it fulfills at the full moon of Nisan, means the month of the beginning, first coming, it would begin on the new moon of Nisan, the very beginning of it, and that's Nisan 1. So his whole month, there's a moon mystery behind this whole thing too. Every Hebrew calendar, every year. But I want to go now to the stars. We went to the moon. Let's go to the stars.
Okay.
And to do the stars, we have to go to the people who were priests, but not Jewish priests, of the religion called Zoroastrianism, which we know as the Magus or the Magi. The strange Magi, or in Hebrew, the Magim.
So they were astrologists.
Yes, let's get into that. Yeah, about astrology. We'll get it. Yeah.
They were looking. They saw him. They come into the Lord in the stars.
They did, and you know that there's actually a prophecy about the Magi. People are really in the Old Testament. Isaiah 60 says, "Arise and shine, your light has come," and then it says, "Nations will come, kings will come," and then it says, "A herd of camels will cover your land, but they will come bearing gold and frankincense." That's Isaiah 60. It actually prophesies the Magi. They will come with gold and frankincense.
How did I ever miss
gold and frankincense? It's God. There's so much in there. You read it, and it's like, I think because only God just puts it in there. I don't know. And it says gold and frankincense, and it'll come praising the Lord. That's the Magi. So the word's given that they're going to come, and then you find in Matthew it says Jesus, Yeshua, was born in Bethlehem, and Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who was born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east, and we came to worship him." Here we have now the clue of the Magi. The Magi that were priests and, as you said, astrologers. Now we know astrology is wrong, bad, have nothing to do with it. No Christian has any business. But God is sovereign, and that's what they know. They're looking in the stars. Back then, astrology and astronomy were basically the same. They believed there was sun. But God is able to speak. So the thing is that, what is this star? Now, there's people who said it's some, conjunction. Well, the problem is no natural star is able to move across the thing. I mean, it can move in the heavens with everything, but it can't move and guide you to a place. So it is a supernatural thing. But what's happening is, what do we know about this star? That they're led to a manger. And first of all, say something else, and you probably all know it, but this is a misconception. You see the nativity scenes, and you see the Magi there. The Magi were never there. They were never there. The Magi were 2 years later. Now, do we have a clue? When did this happen? Well, Herod's alive, and he says 2 years, kill them, according to when they saw the star. So, Herod, do we know when he died? Herod died 4 BC. So right away, we know that Jesus was born BC. He wasn't born on the 0. We know that's a mistake. It's really not the year, whatever it is, it's 2012, it's really 2016, if you go, or more than that. But he had to be born BC because Herod died BC. So then it's 2 years before. So that's pointing us to 6 BC with the Magi seeing something. Now, here's another clue here in the mystery. If the Magi just saw a star in the sky, how would they know that this is King of the Jews? I mean, how would they put a star, a star appears, but how do you know King of the Jews? One interesting thing is that, remember, there was the prophet Daniel, and he went to Babylon. The Bible says that he became the head of the wise men of Persia. The wise men of Persia were the Magi. So actually, Daniel is the one who actually gives the time of Messiah's coming. He gives that countdown. So it's possible he could have passed down that went to the Magi the time around when he came. They still wouldn't know when he's born, but it would say when he's born in Jerusalem. They still wouldn't, but they could already be saying, okay, something may happen soon. But how do they know? By looking at a star, how do you get King of the Jews? And here's a thing, and remember, it's not about astrology is wrong, but God's able to speak the language to speak them. And this is the thing. Around in 6 BC, same time, we know there was something that happened. Anyone into the stars would have seen it. There was a convergence of Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Mars, all converging to one part of the sky. And there was also something called a double occultation. But anyway, there's all these things happening. But they said, where is the King of the Jews? They were astrologers. In the language of the stars, they thought it was a star, but it was a wandering star, it was a planet. One star was linked to the king, and that was Jupiter. When you saw that, that was the king star, or it was a planet. But then, what does it do? How do you get Jews? They say, where's the king? There's an ancient astronomer, a Greek, who says this in a book called Tetrabiblos. Says there was, in the land of Judea, was linked to the constellation in the ancient world to Aries, the ram. That the ancient world, when they saw that, they said Judea. So why is that significant? What happened in 6 BC is that all these things converge, and Jupiter, it comes in this picture big time. Things are happening with Jupiter, and they all come to the place that's linked to Judea in the sky. It's all linked to this thing, Aries. So they would look at this and say, king. They would say Jew, and here's the star, something happens divine. So they would come from that a king of the Jews has been born, who is somebody beyond anything we've known. So they would come by that, just by that, be able to say, where is he who was born king of the Jews? We saw his star. And modern astronomers have identified that such a conjunction happens only once every 6,000 years. So here it happens. With this, they come. When did this convergence happen? And again, it's not about the Magi, it's about that God is able to lead anyone who's seeking him.
Yeah.
But when did this happen? It happened in 6 BC. When? In the springtime. Again, in the springtime. But now the mystery gets bigger. Okay, now hold on. Now it's okay if you get or you don't get. But here's the thing. Here's another real clue in the Bible, big one. Luke 1. It says, in the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zacharias of the division of Abijah. And he had a wife, the daughters of Aaron, her name was Elizabeth. It happened while he was performing his priestly service before God in the appointed order of the division, according to his custom. He was chosen by lot, and he went in to minister. Now, we got a clue right there. This is the birth of John. His father is a priest. He's a Kohanim from Aaron. And he goes to minister. Now, what we know right there is there was a set time when the priests would go in, and they were divided up into courses. His course was Abijah. So we can find out when Abijah's course was, we've got it. We've nailed it. If you can find out, because he was there, then 6 months later comes the conception of Jesus. You got the whole thing. But the trick is, how can you find?
Now, there's a calendar somewhere.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
You think there is one on
There is
Earth?
one.
There is one.
Yeah, there is one. First of all, in 1 Chronicles 24, we read about the divisions of the priests. So we now know the order of when Abijah was in there. He was number 8. He was the 8th. It would go by weeks. 1 week, 2 weeks. He would be the 8th week in order. They'd rotate. They had 24 altogether. So just know there you got 8. But you got to know. But the key is when does it begin? Because we can't tell when this happened until we know he's number 8. But we can't tell until we know when he began. Okay. The answer here, the clue comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls, which, by the way, were only discovered by this Arab shepherd who threw a stone into the cave, and it smashed these pottery, and comes the greatest find of the oldest Bible ever in history. Just at the same time when Israel is coming back as a nation, God restores this book. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, here's the thing. There is a writing in one of the scrolls, actually, that contains a calendar of the priestly courses. Okay, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is 2,000 years waiting to uncover. And so the thing is, now the key here is that this calendar goes for a few years before it repeats again. It's not a 1 year. It's not the same every year. So you got to narrow down when exactly, what year was. If you can get any priest, whenever this order was on this date, you can nail down the rest of them. Okay, that is the key. So here's the thing. They give a mystery, and this is going to sound like Indiana Jones. Okay. And you don't have to get it, and it doesn't matter. We're not going to. But they give a date of when the calendar began, and here's what it is. But you're not going to get. It's okay, but it sounds like this is Hollywood. In the Dead Sea Scroll, it says, when the sun displays itself from the east and shines in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning on the 4th day of the week of the sons of Gamul, the course of Gamul. In the first month, it's the first year. You don't have to get any of it, but let me tell you what it's saying. It's saying that the priestly calendar begins at the equinox, the spring equinox, and on a Wednesday, the 4th day of the equinox. Okay, so that's all it is. Then the Dead Sea Scroll gives you a few dates, and one of those dates matches this of when this would have been at the time we're talking about. And so but before I give you that, because it's going to be the nail of this, there's one other thing of it, and that is, there is another ancient Hebrew writing that confirms that they're giving you the right date, and that's the Talmud. Because the Talmud says, here's the clue, Talmud writings of the rabbis say, the Temple of Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD. It was destroyed on a Sunday, they said. And they give you the name of the priests, of course, who were in that week. So just by that, you've got it. And the thing is, the question is, so if you take that, and all you do is wind it back to the time of Jesus, or take the other one, by the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is before Jesus' birth, and wind it forward, and see if they match. The first thing is they match. The Dead Sea Scroll date and the Talmud match. So we got it, okay? So now you have to find is, when did this date appear? When was Abijah ministering at this time? And the ultimate thing is, when you do this, if you work it all together, when does the birth of Messiah take place according to it? Ready? In the month of Nisan, late March, early April, 6 BC, the priestly calendar leads us to a very specific time and a date. It leads us to March 20th, 6 BC, and if you take the calendar of the priests, and it leads us to the same date, as the Talmud does, which happens on the Hebrew calendar is Nisan 1, the day of the beginning of all things, the day that we said he would be born. Now, one other thing here, there's a thing here that there was an early church, we went from there, and now we're going to go into the hidden vaults of the Vatican, okay? And in there is a writing of a church father called Hippolytus. And what he did is they used him, and they say, Hippolytus, he's the one who gave us December 25th. He told us in the early days, it's the 25th of December. But in one of the, you look at the writings, it's been censored, because in one of the writings there, it says, it's like they put that in. You look at his writing, he says in the same thing, no, Messiah was born in the month of Nisan. This is an early church writing which was censored. There's even a document in the Vatican Church. This is not, crazy stuff. It's there, which gives a document which gives Nisan as the date of Messiah's birth. But now I want to give you one more that's going to bring it home, okay? One more, okay? What is the most exact shadow in the Old Testament of the birth or incarnation of Messiah? What would you say? And it's the tabernacle, because it's God tabernacling with us. In fact, when you read John, the beginning of the Gospel of John, the Word became flesh, that's the incarnation, and tabernacled among us. The word in Greek refers to the tabernacle of Israel. So he set up his tent. He came there and set up his tent. So the thing is, so here it is, the Bible speaks about the tent, tabernacle, as being a sign of being in the flesh, being incarnation. So here the question is there a clue? And the last piece is going to be in the Bible itself. I can't believe I missed this. I can't believe most. The Bible is giving you the clue. The tabernacle is the symbol of God dwelling with us. So here it is. Could it have a clue? The first thing to know is when was the tabernacle built? Right after they went to Sinai, Mount Sinai, all that stuff. God says built a tent. They start building a tent. Now, how long does it take for a child to be from conception to birth? How long? 9 months, slightly less, 9 months. How long was it for the tabernacle from conception to finishing? 9 months. 9 months. The same. Here it is, the same thing. It's right there. And so then the final thing is the Bible actually gives the date. We can find out when the tabernacle was finished. If we can find the date the tabernacle is finished, you've got it. Again. So now, here it is. So where is it? There's a scripture. The scripture is Exodus 40, 1 and 2, which says, you shall raise up the tent of the tabernacle of the congregation. You'll put it there, the Ark of the Testimony, when? Here it is in the original. The answer is, B'yom ha'chodesh harishon be'echad la'chodesh. That's the answer.
Okay, thanks. Please, Rabbi.
And now the translation.
The translation, here it is. In the first month, Nisan, on the first day of that month, Nisan 1. The exact day from the beginning. Everything points. It's the beginning on Nisan 1, springtime, he was born. And this is everything. I mean, from the priest of the Magi to the priestly calendar, to the Bible itself. All the Word became flesh and tabernacle. It's all there. It all was 9 months up until the day, Nisan 1, when he would be born. From the censored writing of the church, it's all there. And why is it important that he would be born in this way? First of all, the first thing is, it's the day that everything becomes new. Everything is new, and everything else becomes old. And what's it saying? When Messiah's presence comes, everything before is old. Everything now is new. And the power of Messiah's presence is the power to make everything new. And the power to make everything old, old. That's when we're born again. When we're born again, that's when Nisan, no matter what day it is, it becomes Nisan 1. It becomes springtime, becomes the beginning. But not only once, we need him all the time. Whenever we receive his presence, everything becomes new. Everything becomes, that's the power of God. The more we dwell in his presence, it says we walk in the newness of life. And the other thing is the power of Messiah coming, he changes the calendars. Everything becomes BC AD. So before we knew him, all BC, we know him AD, but every moment we receive him again, every time we receive him in our lowest point, it becomes BC, it's now AD. It's always day one for the people of God. If we dwell in his presence, it's day one, new chances, second chance, everything is new. Even the new covenant itself, we think new covenant, well, it means it's newer than the old. That's not what it means. It means the covenant of newness. It never gets old. It doesn't matter. We might get old, but if we stay right in there, we never get old. The new covenant is always new. He's the God of second chances. New, 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 new. And one other thing, just share, let's link it to the second coming. Let's link it to real now. Notice the first coming, for this to happen, everything had to be in an exact place. Everything had to happen exactly. Mary had to meet Joseph. They had to fall in love, and their parents had to fall in love, and their parents had to fall in love. And every one slight change, and the whole thing falls apart. Everything had to be, even the good, the bad, the problems, everything had to be worked perfectly for this to happen at the exact date. That's the first coming. Same with the second coming. Everything in this world is working exactly to bring about the second coming. Even our problems, even every life is working together. Israel, every single thing that's happening is working together. Just as the first coming was exact, the second coming will be exact and on time. And everything, including the problems, including the delays, including all the hardships, is all going to work together, not only for good, but for his coming. We are in the mystery now of the second coming, but it's going to be just as perfect as the first.
Oh, this is beautiful. Wow.
And we see how this all fits together. The Jewish calendar falls at different times.
Yes, according to the Western, yes.
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 What would be on our calendar then the exact date? Would there be an exact date?
It would change.
Would you go that far?
It would change. Well, it would change on our calendar every year. But it's going to be in spring, it's going to be March, April, and it's going to be Nisan 1. You can find out Nisan 1 every year. In fact, this is an interesting thing, because Nisan 1 is the true it's a true new year for Jewish people. But Jewish people don't celebrate it, because they think Rosh Hashanah is. But the Bible says that's in the 7th month.
Where do we get December 25th from?
A few things. I mean, one is, the problem is when everything went away from Israel, went away from the Jewish people, everything started getting, it became kind of, paganized. And so you have the winter solstice going on. You had all the Saturnalia festivals, December 25th. It was the lowest. It was the time when the day was the smallest. And so now the light's going to come out again. So it's called the Day of the Unconquerable Sun. So they took that. And interesting, because even on the Roman calendar, it's very close to New Year's, to January 1st, but it's the Western New Year's, not the Hebrew New Year. So that's the only. But they took a pagan feast when they were already celebrating the sun and the light in the world, and they said, okay, let's take this and let's do it for Jesus, sort of, and we'll get all the people to now just say, keep doing it, but do it for Jesus. So that's how December 25th came. But I do not endorse Santa Claus. I do not endorse focusing on these things. Focus on Messiah. Focus on the Lord.
Amen.
Don't let anything take away. That's what it's about.
But the thing we got to be careful about, and we don't want to go crazy and be mean, but if we do not stand on the solid word of God, his numbers don't change, his times don't change. When we let error come in, do you see how one date, one error, one dumb tradition can set us off track? Because everything you're teaching us is the harmony of God's Word.
It's the fingerprint of God. And the other thing is that 2,000 years ago, there was a split between the church and Israel. And that split, which the enemy loves, that crippled Israel, being away from their Messiah, but it's also hurt the church. There are things that are waiting to come together that will only happen. He's only going to come when it all comes